Victoria Pearson, but you can call me V. And a couple of weeks ago, one of you asked me, what does a witchy Christmas look like? And so I thought I would talk you through how I blend my own pagan beliefs and secular Christmas traditions where we live and Christian Christmas traditions where we live, all into one sort of Pearson paganish Christmas that works for all of our family. To make this make sense though, I have to first explain to you a little bit about what kind of witch I am, because as you may know, there are loads of different types of witches. There's Wiccan witches, there's pagan witches, there's druid witches, there's crystal witches and mediums and all sorts of different kinds of witches. And I'm a little bit eclectic. I'm a little bit of a lot of them. But when I come to describe my practice to people, what I often say is I'm a very Pratchett-ish witch. Now, Terry Pratchett wrote fictional stories, and in those stories, in the Discworld stories, there were witches. And although it is fiction, Terry Pratchett blends a lot of philosophy, a lot of politics, a lot of things in our modern world into his fantasy stories to sort of satirize them. And I really, really like the way the witches work, especially Granny Weatherwax, very Weatherwax type witch. And I will talk about that more in a different video. That's not really what this one's about. But in the Pratchett universe, gods are created by people's belief in them. And that is actually a fairly core part of my practice. I'm fairly sure that Terry Pratchett did not invent this idea. It's a philosophical idea that's been around for thousands and thousands of years. He's just really, really good at writing those ideas in a way that's accessible for everybody. And if you haven't read it, I would strongly recommend that you go and read Small Gods to better understand what I'm talking about here. It is a thick, weighty tome of a book. It's also one of my favourite Pratchett books, and it's well worth the read. It blends a lot of philosophy and ethics and politics into the story, and it's a very, very good satirical look at churches in general. In that particular story, there is a god named Om who has a massive church with thousands of worshippers, but only one person who truly believes in the god himself and not the church that has built up around him. As a result, he is stuck in the shape of an elderly one-eyed tortoise. But I'm digressing a bit here. I believe, as was said in those books, that gods are created by our belief in them, that deities and spirits of all different types are created by us believing in them, by sacrificing to them, by making rituals to them. We give these things power. And so for that reason, I say Father Christmas is the demigod of joy in dark times. And I 100% believe that, because we make sacrifices to Santa. Every year I sacrifice some of my baking and a glass of milk to Santa. I also sacrifice quite a lot of time and energy into doing things for Santa. I won't go too deeply into what things I do for Santa, because all the grown-ups know what things we do for Santa, and we work really hard to help Santa out at this time of year. In return, Santa reminds us that even in the darkest, most miserable time of year, you can find joy, you can find love, you can find laughter, and you can find hope. And if you can find those things during the darkest, coldest, most miserable time of the year, you can find those things within yourself all year round. And so to me, I view Father Christmas, Santa Claus, Saint Nicholas, whatever you want to call him, as the demigod of joy in dark times. And so, as well as writing letters to Santa asking for what we want, i.e. sending him a manifestation list, we also send him a thank you letter afterwards to say thank you for those gifts that he gives us, because that gratitude is important. As you know from my daily videos, if you try really hard to spot something that you're grateful for each day, your brain starts to notice more things that you're grateful for. If you show gratitude for your Christmas gifts, both the material things and that gift of joy and laughter and togetherness and warmth at Christmas time, you will start to notice more of that in your life. You'll start to become more aware of it. So when we send Santa our wish list, we're sending him our manifestations. When we're sending him our thank you letters afterwards, we're sending our gratitude out into the universe. We don't have a fireplace in my house, and so Santa can't come down our chimney. As a result, he needs a magic key to be let into our house. Keys are also associated with Hecate, who is the goddess of witchcraft, but she's also the goddess of crossroads, thresholds, doorways, liminal spaces, and we will be talking a lot more about liminal spaces in magic practice next week. That's going to be my main witchy vlog next week. But her being the goddess of those liminal spaces like thresholds, keys, doors, gates, also makes her very powerful at this time of year where we're transitioning from one year into the other. And so it's sort of a liminal space between Christmas and New Year. And so when we're putting out the magic key for Santa, I am also whispering a little prayer to Hecate, asking her to clear all the roads for us in the new year, to open all the doors for us in the new year, to light the way that we need to go in the new year. Keys are also representative of success, and ours is gold coloured with red accents, and both of those are great colours for manifesting wealth, abundance and luxury. And so I'm very intentional about that when I'm putting the key out as well, that those are the things that I want to invite into our home for the coming year. I'm setting that intention, I'm asking for that success. I also set that intention when I am creating our Christmas food. One of the things that I make every single year is our family recipes Christmas biscuits. They're actually very, very basic, but they were a recipe that was written in the back of a book, probably not her original recipe, but it was written in the back of a notebook by my great aunt. So I wrote it down and we've been using it every year. And I use that both as a way to connect with my ancestors because, like I say, it was my great aunt's recipe. I don't know if she created it, but I know that she used it because the page that it was on was covered in batter mix. And so I know she'd have been open on that page quite a few times. I know it was something that she used a lot. She is now passed, she's in the spirit world. And so cooking that recipe is a way of sort of connecting with her, connecting with my ancestors, connecting with people beyond the veil that I have a soul connection to in that way. Also in that recipe, there are several spices that are associated with abundance and joy, luxury, and things like that. And so when I'm making the biscuits, I will bless my intention into those herbs before adding it. I will make sure that I always stir clockwise so that I'm inviting energy in instead of pushing it out with the anti-clockwise stirring. And again, sometimes we make the shapes very intentionally pagan as well, like we'll make moons or stars, but actually I got given some Christmassy cookie cutters this year, and so this year they're going to be snowflakes and snowmen and Father Christmas, but they will still be just as pagan because they have all those same ingredients. It's still my ancestors' recipe. I will still be blessing things into that intention while I'm cooking it. And I will do that for all of our Christmas food. The Christmas meal is something that I put a lot of effort into, and I pay a lot more attention to presentation and things than I normally would throughout the year, just to elevate it and make it that little bit more special. It's part of the gift for my family. I'm showing them I care enough to do this thing that I hate for you, because I hate peeling and chopping and being very precise. As you've seen from my videos, I'm a chaotic cook. At Christmas, I try and be a careful cook. Also, during this time of year, I like to decorate with food as well. So your dried orange garlands that are very trendy this year, we always do those. Strings of popcorn on the Christmas tree, that is another one. Anything where, or chocolate coins hung on the Christmas tree, anything where you are bringing food in as part of your decor. Again, it's to invite the abundance of food into our homes during those cold months. When we were living much closer to the land in the old times, that would have been a lot more important because we would be heading into the hungry gap in a few months. And so it'd be really important to invite the energy of abundant food into our homes, but also to feast, to lay down some fat to store over winter, so that when we get to that hungry month in sort of April kind of time, when nothing's really growing yet, the winter crops are finished but the spring ones haven't started yet, we've got that little bit of padding on us. It's really very interesting to me how many different cultures have some kind of celebration in the depths of winter where we light up all the lights and we eat all the food and we see all of our friends and family and basically tell the sun to get off his arse and do a full day's job for once. Like, I find it very interesting that a lot of cultures have that, and I think it's probably psychologically quite important for us as humans to remind ourselves that the dark times and the cold times, they don't last forever. Everything comes back around again. Similarly, I also use simmer pots, which mainly are to make my house smell nice and Christmassy, especially if people are coming in with like wet boots all the time and they can smell quite bad and you just want a nice Christmassy fragrance through your house. But at the same time, you can add ingredients to them that match your intentions. So orange for abundance and sun energy and joy, and cinnamon for financial abundance and clarity, and all these different things that you can just throw in there, like, oh yeah, rosemary, remembrance, throw that in. And whatever scents you like, but also whatever intentions you like can go into that simmer bowl. And if before you start your simmer bowl, you put a little bit of oil on your finger and you draw a sigil in the bottom of the saucepan, and then add your water and your fruits and your spices and let it simmer on, that's also letting the intention of the sigil out and to permeate through your house as well. I wouldn't recommend doing simmer pots too often if you live in a very small environment, like a small flat, or if you live with lots of people, especially if you're living in England, because steaming something constantly all the time can cause damp in your home. And so use that one sparingly, but it absolutely can be used. Like many people at this time of year, I like to bring greenery into my house at this time of year, decking the halls with boughs of holly, literally. I like going out and collecting the holly because it gives me a chance to connect with nature in my local area. Although I personally get a lot of the holly out of my garden. My garden is quite wild and overgrown, and holly is one of the things that grows wildly and abundantly here, as is ivy. So I can have the full Christmas cohort in my house without actually leaving my garden, which is fantastic. But it is really, really good to be able to connect with those nature spirits in my garden, even while they're in their dormant state. That's the time that we would do normally neglect the outside. We neglect communing with nature in the winter time. And so it is good to have that chance to connect with your local natural environment. And again, bringing greenery into your house, whether it's artificial or real, is another way of reminding yourself that the spring always triumphs over the winter. It doesn't matter how long the winter it is, it doesn't matter how deep, how cold, how bitter, how difficult it's been, the sun will return again. As above, so below. The seasons remind us that these seasons exist within our own emotions as well. There will be times of loss, there will be times of pain, there will be times in your life where you're going through a stage of growth, and that is always painful, but the sun does return again. The spring does return again. The world turns again. Everything is in a cycle. It's really important to remind ourselves of that while we're in the bleak, miserable time of the year, because we're not really stressing too much about it in the summer. And that is again why I think we have to have so many Christmas lights up at this time of year. I love, love, love Christmas lights. It is one of my favourite parts of the season. I love when people decorate the outside of their houses and you go for a walk after dark and you see all of the twinkly lights. I love seeing lights in people's houses. I love seeing the shops all lit up. I think Christmas lights are the best, and I'm fairly sure that is again just another little talisman against the darkness, just another little reminder that darkness passes when you introduce light. And I love that. I love. Now, the whole of this time of year is a bit celebratory for us. I like to celebrate solstice, which is usually the 21st or sometimes the 22nd where I live. And obviously Christmas Day for the children. Boxing Day is my son's birthday. Then we have a family thing the day after that goes on every year. And so our celebrations basically last from the 21st, when I say the Christmas food can start to be eaten. We can have the chocolate log now. All the way through to the 27th, which is when we have a big family party. We meet up with the in-laws and all the cousins, and all the kids get together, and it's really, really nice. And there's a lot more food than anybody really needs on that day, considering how much we've eaten on the run up to it. But it's just a really, really nice chance to connect with everybody again. So we start on the 21st, when, if I haven't already put them up, I will make sure that all of my decorations are up. We do usually wait until the 15th or 16th, and that's when I put my decorations up. But I don't actually switch the lights on until solstice on the 21st, just to start the celebration. And then the 22nd is usually a last minute running around and shopping and doing things day, to be honest. But if we've done all those things, we're hyper organised for a change, that will be a watching weepy movies and making ourselves cry day, because actually having a good cry at the end of the year, letting out all of the stuff that has built up over the year, is really, really good for you. You can leave it in this year and not take that baggage into the next year. On the 23rd, we call that Christmas Adam, because it comes before Christmas Eve. And we normally have spare ribs, or the veggie equivalent, for that reason. And it's just a silly little tradition that we started for no reason whatsoever. And I'm really looking forward to that. We generally go and see one set of in-laws on Christmas Eve, and then when we get home, my husband preps the Christmas dinner veg so that I don't have to peel and chop things. That's part of his gift to me. And then we make the children an extra fancy hot chocolate, and we all settle down and watch Muppets Christmas Carol every single year. I think I could quote the whole movie at this point, but to me, it isn't actually Christmas until you've heard the song Feels Like Christmas and had a little bit of a weep at Tiny Tim. Christmas Day, we do the normal English Christmas Day thing, you know, presents and the big dinner and the not wanting to move afterwards and then just eating chocolate for the rest of the day. Boxing Day, we normally start quite early. Do other cultures have Boxing Day? I'm not actually sure if that's a purely English thing, but the day after Christmas is what we call Boxing Day. And that is my son's birthday. So we're often up quite early, have a party tea. We're going to have cake on that day as well. I am going to be spherical by the end of these few days, and it will be 100% worth it. And then, as I say, the day after that, we've got our big family party. And so there's a lot going on during that time, but I feel like we've managed to blend the secular things like visiting with people, the Christianish type of things, because we sing Christmas carols sometimes. Did you know that singing in a choir during the winter months means that you will get fewer respiratory illnesses like coughs and colds and stuff like that? I had no idea, but apparently Elf was right, and singing loud for all to hear is very good for you. And we have my pagan traditions mixed into that as well. And that is basically how this witch does Christmas. I don't know about other witches. My community posts are open though, so if your witchy Christmas looks very, very different from mine, please tell me all about it, because I would love to hear about it. Or in the comments of this video, that's absolutely fine, but I would love to hear about your Christmas traditions. As I said, next week I will be here talking about liminal spaces in witchcraft, because I believe that the time in between Christmas and New Year is one of the most powerful liminal spaces that we experience, and so is really, really good for supercharging your witchcraft. If you can't wait until then to see me again though, I will be here every single morning or every single day in your shorts, taking a great big deep breath, letting you know what I'm grateful for. I will be here on Christmas Day as well, so if you're lonely and on your own on Christmas, you will still see me on Christmas. And again, you can post in my community if you want, and I'd love it if other people will just reply to each other in there so we can all keep each other company on Christmas Day. Can be really, really difficult at this time of year, especially if you're holding grief and loss in your heart at the same time as trying to make space for that joy. It is okay to feel how you feel about it. It is okay if you haven't got your jolly on. Nothing bad is going to happen if you humbug and say you're not doing Christmas this year. That is absolutely fine. You have to build the traditions that work for you, and sometimes that means completely ignoring the festive period completely, and that's okay. So join me on Monday for my next vlog. Like I said, I'm talking about liminal spaces in witchcraft. I will be here in your shorts every single morning, taking a great big deep breath, letting you know what I'm grateful for. I'm also here on a Witchy Wednesday doing an intuitive tarot card pull for you. Usually you can book me for a private reading, but they're actually closed so I can have a little break over Christmas, because otherwise I'm going to have a little breakdown over Christmas. And I'd also like to encourage you to check out the pre-order of the book that I've got coming out on Boxing Day this year. The one that I've been working on with 3 other authors as well. It's called Agents of Secrets and Lies. And I think by the time this goes out, you will have seen all my little shorts about it, where we're all acting as our characters. That was great fun. But the pre-order is now live. If you go to mybook.to/SRAgents, you will be able to find the pre-order there and grab it while it is still cheap, because it's on an introductory offer at the moment. You can also find my writing on my Patreon, on my Ko-fi, on my Amazon page. Everything is on my link tree in the description if you want to go and see where else you can find me. So like and subscribe for me, or don't, because I'm not your mum. But either way, you have yourself a beautiful week and you have yourself a wonderful Christmas.